what's the point of view that Judas is going into this moment with? How is he seeing Jesus? How is he looking at the world? Thomas, you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I thought about this past couple of weeks leading up to Easter. I did a sermon series on when we're disappointed. We talked about the road to the cross. And so I think it's pretty fascinating that Judas is one of the 12, right? He's right there alongside the other 12. He's there when Jesus does some healings, as Benji mentioned. He's there. He helps divide the loaves and the fish. He goes out 2 by 2 and preaches and sees healings. And then we start to see a turning point in Judas at a pretty particular point, which is when the woman breaks the box and anoints Jesus' feet. And he's there with this money could have been given to the poor, right? And it seems like that, at least in Luke's telling of the story, the very next thing that happens, if I'm getting this correctly, is he goes and meets with the religious leaders seeking an opportunity to betray. And so Scripture doesn't tell us. Scripture doesn't say specifically what Judas's motivation was. Certain of the Gospels say that he was a thief and that he'd been stealing from the treasury, and that's why he was upset. But I think there's actually a compelling possibility that Judas actually becomes disillusioned with who he wanted Jesus to be. That we know that in the first century Judaism, there was this idea, this messianic expectation that the Messiah was going to be this political military deliverer who is going to come in riding on a white horse, overthrow the foreign oppressors, right, and make Israel great again, really is what they were hoping for. And so we see Peter's disappointment when he correctly identifies Jesus as the Messiah, and then Jesus immediately says, well, I'm going to die. And Peter said, that no, Messiahs don't die. Right. And so I think maybe we're seeing that with Judas, where it finally hits him. And so I think there's one of two things. I think a possibility is that Judas so believed in this idea of the Messiah and believed that Jesus was was just confused that he actually tried to force Jesus into a position where he would have to come out. And so if I betray him into the hands of these people, well, then his hands are going to be tied and he's going to have to then demonstrate who he is and overthrow the powers at that point. I think another possibility is that maybe he realized that the jig was up and he was looking for a way out, because he knew that if Jesus died, chances are that what happened to Jesus would happen to his followers as well. But I think very possibly Judas was motivated by this idea of the Messiah that wasn't correct, and that he was trying to force Jesus to be who he thought Jesus should be instead of accepting who Jesus actually was. And I think that speaks to a lot of what might be going on today as well.